many of you are fans of the Sweet Magnolias Netflix series? If you're like me, you probably watched that show with a quiet sense of longing, wishing that the town of Serenity were real. Because if it were, I'd have my bags packed, my kids buckled in the car, and Google Maps set. But then the TV clicks off, and real life comes rushing back. The baskets of unfolded laundry, the half-solved math homework, and seasonally appropriate, the cooked pumpkin in the fridge I had every intention of baking with 3 days ago. And perhaps like me, you feel this pang, this subtle ache, because the world you just watched feels nothing like the world you're standing in. Today we're exploring that ache, that longing, that discontent that gets stirred up inside you. Because something about that community, the friendships, the faith, the family dynamics, hits a tender place in a mother's heart. And maybe it's not about wanting their lives, but about wondering why those things feel so rare in ours. If you've never watched the show, here's the quick version. Sweet Magnolias is set in a small southern town called Serenity. It follows the intertwined lives of 3 women navigating motherhood, careers, heartbreak, and faith, supported by a community that shows up, prays together, feeds each other, and holds one another upright. And as you listen today, I want you to give yourself permission. It's okay to long for those things. Welcome back to Gracefully Unraveled, a podcast where we explore the sacred messiness of motherhood, identity, and ego. I'm your host, Kelli Lynch, and every other week I'm exploring how motherhood reshapes us, not into someone new, but into a deeper awareness of who we are, through personal reflection, spiritual insight, a dash of data, and a whole lot of honesty. Let's unravel with intention and kindness together. The true hallmark of the Sweet Magnolias show is the friendship shared between these 3 amazing women. But for some mamas, that sense of friendship, so tight it feels like sisterhood, seems like a distant past. So why do once stable friendships seem to unravel after becoming a mom? Because motherhood reorganizes more than your schedule. It reorganizes your identity. That includes your relationships. Research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships shows that women often experience a significant contraction in social networks after childbirth, largely due to expectations that mothers prioritize home life over social connection. And this isolation is not accidental, but also not fully intentional. What we accept as maternal instinct is often mixed with societal conditioning. And to complicate it further, friendships that once felt effortless now require more energy, planning, childcare, and vulnerability than we feel equipped to manage. Some sociologists have actually referred to early motherhood as a period of role engulfment, when one identity eclipses others, sometimes unintentionally. And where that leaves a lot of mamas is lonely. And according to popular researcher and author Brené Brown, loneliness and disconnection are the worst heartbreaks of all. Now, I, of course, realize this may not be the experience for all. According to a Pew Research Center survey, 55% of women report having between 1 and 4 close friends, while 36% say they have 5 or more. But I would wager to guess that the number would decrease if we added a women with kids filter. Because the harsh reality is that if given a moment to breathe, moms are more likely to prioritize self-care and sleep over socializing. And next thing you know, a bestie becomes a fond memory. Based on my own experience and what I've witnessed, despite connection being biologically crucial, many women quietly retreat into motherhood, assuming that sacrifice was just part of the deal. But here's a truth bomb. Friendship is a two-way street. And sometimes variable personality styles can work against each other during transitions like marriage and motherhood. Things like introversion, avoidant tendencies, or even Enneagram 7s, the enthusiast, are all fear-based profiles, and they struggle to form emotionally intimate relationships. But when they do, they may not be well equipped to maintain them during difficult circumstance. So, what are we really longing for when we watch Sweet Magnolias, beyond the weekly margarita night shared between close friends? It's community, acceptance, support, shared life, visible faith, emotional safety, intergenerational wisdom. But here's the tension. We want the town of serenity, but we're living in what often feels like a suburbia of disconnection. And that longing we feel, that ache, isn't a mistake. According to the ancient text, Tao Te Ching, a book that has influenced both psychology and spiritual traditions for centuries, truth waits for eyes unclouded by longing. But this doesn't mean we should suppress desire or pretend we don't want more. It means longing is a signal, a hint that something deeper is trying to surface. Longing is not delusion, it's data. It's your spirit pointing you towards what it was made for. And longing for community is only half the story. Because for many of us, that longing begins to show up in our faith lives too. Before motherhood, spirituality might have felt more straightforward. Maybe even tidy. There was time to think, time to pray, time to make meaning. Or maybe faith lived quietly in the background, something you heard but didn't fully connect with, like faint music that didn't feel meant for you. But motherhood has a way of amplifying things we once overlooked. In the pressure, the exhaustion, and the constant emotional labor, faith can suddenly feel either desperately needed or painfully uncertain. Motherhood disrupts tidy faith the same way it disrupts tidy schedules. It forces questions. It stretches belief. It invites us, sometimes unwillingly, into deeper spiritual territory. So despite some women arriving at motherhood with a solid faith foundation, the emotional chaos, fear, exhaustion, and responsibility can make former spiritual frameworks feel too small or too simplistic. And then there are others who enter motherhood without any stable spiritual background. That would be me. Only to realize that they're longing for grounding, for meaning, for something to help them hold it all. Either way, motherhood may be the first time faith is tested in practice rather than simply agreed with, because holy consciousness must enter the vulnerable spaces where ego and identity reside. Now you see your impatience. You sense your inadequacy. You meet the parts of yourself that don't feel holy or graceful or together. And here's the beautiful twist. That's often where transformation begins. Because the same things that heal our sense of connection, whether with friends or our children, vulnerability, honesty, love, these are the very things that deepen our faith. And this is where science gives us something incredibly hopeful. The things we deeply long for are the very things our brains were created to need. Just like strong female connection boosts oxytocin and reduces stress, spiritual practices also have proven measurable benefits. Studies using fMRI imaging from the University of Pennsylvania and Harvard Medical School found that faith practices trigger dopamine and endorphins, reducing stress and increasing resilience. And long-term spiritual practices actually change brain structure through neuroplasty, strengthening compassion and quieting the default mode network, the part of our brain responsible for rumination, self-criticism, and replaying the mom fails in our heads. Marianne Williamson says it perfectly. When you are aligned with love, with God's consciousness, your mind becomes healthier. Spirit and mind are not separate. Healing is integrated. All right, ladies, it's time to land this plane. Just because Sweet Magnolias is scripted doesn't mean what it represents is impossible. Sometimes God uses fiction to remind us the truths we've forgotten in reality. Your longing is not foolish. It's formative. It's pointing you toward connection, community, and spiritual grounding. There's a moment in Scripture where early believers were reminded of something we still need today. Don't disappear into your own world. Don't do this life silently. Keep meeting together. Keep cheering each other on. Keep choosing connection even when it feels easier to withdraw. It's basically God saying, stay close to each other. It strengthens you. This week, I encourage you to let the longing become a small act of courage. Invite a mom friend or acquaintance for coffee. Join a community group in your town or at church. I know the service group I joined provides reason to crawl out of my hidey hole. It's not that I didn't want friends or community. It was quite the opposite. I just didn't know where to start. Engage with your kids authentically and with a desire to connect, even if it means looking at Pokemon cards together. Ask questions, even if you think it's silly. Your interest in their world brightens their inner light. I've seen it firsthand. Take one tiny step that makes your world feel more like serenity, because your longing is both a sign of what's missing and an invitation to help create it right where you are. Thanks for listening to Gracefully Unraveled. If you'd like to go deeper with today's reflection, head over to Instagram or Facebook for a journal prompt, or visit the links in the show notes. New episodes will be released bi-weekly with some bonus tracks in between, so be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss out. If you enjoyed today's episode and feel called to share, please tell another mama in your life or leave a 5-star review. I'm Kelli Lynch, and until next time, keep unraveling.